DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it back. Tell the DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it back. Tell them play that shit again, tell them that you like that. Like DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, bring it, tell DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, tell DJ turn it up, better DJ bring it, tell play that shit again, tell them that you like that. Like.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to an all-new show here on the All About the Birds Network. We are calling it Chips and Dish. I am your host, Chip Keggy, Twitter handle better known as Chip for the Birds. Big shout out to the All About the Birds crew, especially my boys Phil, Johnny, and Jeff for allowing me, a humble writer, humble teacher, humble football coach, to host his own show here. A little bit about me, just because it's the first show and you may or may not know me. Like I said, my name is Chip. I am a 33-year-old Philadelphia person, all born and bred. I am a 4-for-4 guy. So I am a Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers fan. And what we felt about at the All About the Birds Network is that we needed more of a sports show talking about a little bit of everything. So you notice me rocking my retro Philadelphia Soul jersey. Just to let you know, it's not going to be all Eagles all the time, but it's going to be a lot of Eagles because we have a lot to talk about going on in the world of the birds right now. Like I mentioned, I am a football coach for the middle school that I teach at, specializing in offense, which, you know, maybe here in Philadelphia we could use a little bit more of right now. I also umpire, and I basically started writing and got picked up by the All About the Birds boys, because they realized that I know more than the people commentating on our games on Sundays. So I figured I would share some of that knowledge. I'm going to be honest, we got to get right into it because yesterday's Eagles game requires some conversation. So we're going to talk some Eagles tonight. We're going to talk about the idea of Carson Wentz and whether or not he should even be considered an elite quarterback. And we are even going to get into some Sixers tonight because it was the opening of the trading season. And apparently, according to everybody, there should be just about every single person in the NBA on the Sixers this year. Jeff tuning in, and he wants to start talking Eagles right away. We suck. Jeff, I have to agree with you. If you look at this team's record right now, and I've heard you guys say this on the post-game show, the preview shows. I've heard you say it on just about every show possible. You are what your record says you are. The thing is that we play in the NFC East. So being a team with 3 wins still somehow makes you in contention. And at this point in the season, losing to the Giants, look, we know we were never going to sweep the NFC East. It just doesn't happen anymore. You know, not since the early days of Andy Reid and McNabb do we just dominate in the NFC. But the question comes in, do we even want to compete in the NFC East? And I'm just going to drop a couple of things for you here. Our next 5 games are not NFC East opponents. And we are playing 5 teams with a combined 32-13 record. 32-13. And we expect coming out of this to win 5 games, 4 games, 3 games. At this point, with the way this team is playing, I don't know if we can win even 1 of the next 5, which then puts us into a conversation if we have 2 games left in the season. Should we still be competing? We all started earlier in the season saying, yeah, we want to make the playoffs. Get Carson Wentz the playoff experience. Do we want it? Of course we want to make the playoffs. Of course we want to say, all we got to do is get in. And then we just got to catch lightning in a bottle like we did when we won that Super Bowl. But like Edwards here is saying, we're I get it. Here's what I worry about. And, my friend here, Mr. Conaway, he says it right away. The coaching this week was trash. To come out of the bye week, and we played on Thursday night. So we had Thursday, that whole weekend, and the whole bye week. We had a lot of time off away from football. And to be that poorly prepared against a team that we played very recently, against a team that between the last time we played them, the Giants, and the time that we just played, did nothing different. They still ran the quarterback option, which is a defensive strategy that you learn how to defend against in college. That is a college-run offense. Jim Schwartz, no answers. They ran the ball with Daniel Jones. They ran the ball, and they blitzed. And we did nothing different. The coaching was trash. Absolutely. We're all really struggling. What do you think about the media saying it's all on Doug this week? Personally, I agree. You can't be head coach and offensive coordinator all at the same time. I think he needs to delegate. I have been saying this for months. The fact that there is no offensive coordinator. There is no offensive coordinator. It's all relying on Doug, and Doug's got all these voices coming, and he's got a passing game coordinator. He's got a running game coordinator. He's got a passing game assistant coordinator. He's got a running back coach. He has an offensive line coach. He's got too many voices. And here is something that I want to point out. After a game, the quarterback gives a press conference. After a game, the defensive coordinator gives a press conference. The head coach gives a press conference. And today, what I really liked, so I did a lot of my research on Twitter because I was getting ready for my first big show. Jeff McClain predicted something. And he said, every single year, Doug Peterson does this mock angry thing for theater purposes. And I think that's what's going to happen today. And when he went on 94.1 this morning, he kind of toned it down a little bit, but he was going to save the rest of it for when the press conference rolls around and nobody tunes in. And that's exactly what he did. Some quotes, and I'm going to paraphrase them, but some quotes from Doug today, the day after a loss to the Giants, the 27-17 loss to the New York Giants. Kelsey was to blame for the bad snaps to Hurts. Not the bad play call, but Kelsey, your all-pro, potentially Hall of Fame center, was to blame. Yes, Kelsey had a bad game. But to say that he was to blame for those bad play calls, no way. He said the offensive line that they put out yesterday was the best five that they had. The best five. Pryor, Opeta are better. Get out of here. This is a direct quote. I feel good about the plays that have been called. I look at the game yesterday and felt I was in rhythm. In rhythm for what? In rhythm for what? In rhythm for what? This is a direct quote. I felt like I was in rhythm. And, oh, look, I ran the ball more. You got to be kidding me. What? In rhythm for what? To run the ball? Okay, you finally committed to the run game. And what happens? You're averaging 5 yards a carry. You're chewing up clock. You are opening up the play action pass. You're opening up the rollout that was not used. Dan Orlovsky, one of my favorite football people, said it took until the 7-minute and 16-second mark in the third quarter for the Eagles to get their quarterback outside the pocket. And they got back-to-back plays over 40 yards. Never called it again. Just so we know, going into the game, the Giants ranked 26th in the league. 26th in the league at defending quarterbacks outside the pocket. But let's keep Carson an athletic quarterback in 7-step drops, letting him read the field, letting him overthink. Giants, by the way, ranked 31st in offense going into yesterday's game. 31st. They put up 27 on us. 27 on us. Right? Let Deuce take the helm. Why not? Why not? At this point, there's got to be something better. But according to Doug Peterson himself, he's felt good about the play calling all year. And nobody's perfect. And there's always some bad calls. There's been nothing but bad calls. There has been nothing but bad calls. Phil wants to know why the wives comment on the shows except for his. Well, look at this face. You may not have the beard to back it up. I mean, it's looking pretty good, the no-shave Ember, but it's all about the good looks. Former student of mine, Hannah, I moved to Texas and I've only been able to watch 3 games. You're not missing anything. You are not missing a thing. And you refuse to buy a subscription to watch these guys. It's exciting, but the Birds, to watch the Birds to me, but I don't think it's worth it at this point. Hannah, it's not, because I live in the area and it's not exciting to watch. This, I think, is interesting, right? Miles makes plays. We have Miles Sanders back. We had him at full health, and he was rushing great. Yes, he had a couple drops. So that's something that he's got to work on. Those are little things he has to work on. He's got to learn how to catch the ball. He's got to look at how to be a Brian Westbrook type player, a LaShawn McCoy type player, a Darren Sproles type player. But that's also why we have Boston Scott. We have other running backs. Miles' job is to run the ball. And here he goes, having some success until they take the ball out of his hands and make Carson throw it over and over and over and over again from inside the pocket. This was the most telling stat to me. 0 third down conversions. There was no way they were winning that game. 0 third down conversions. I don't understand how for 2 weeks of preparation, that's the best they could call. You know what? All last week, the big conversation was Brett Favre said something mean about Carson Wentz. Doug, do you agree? I'm not going to go against Brett Favre. Okay there, but let's bring it up again. Brett Favre said something mean and that we should keep Nick Foles. Do you agree? I respect Brett's opinion. Okay, let's try this for a third time. We're going to ask you very clearly. Doug Peterson, should we have kept Nick Foles? No, Carson's the guy. Carson's the guy. Carson's 100% the guy. I trust him. Carson's the guy. And if you disagree with me, if you put words in my mouth, we're going to have problems. Well, Doug, we got problems because you are calling a game that is putting Carson Wentz in no position to succeed, right? Melissa Keggy, that'd be my sister tuning in with her football knowledge. I was about to turn on the game. My phone dinged with the first TD for the Giants. I was like, nope. And you know what? I wish that was the point that I turned it off, right? Going back, comments like this happen on bye weeks. Let's make a big deal about the Brett Favre situation. Let's make a big deal about the Brett Favre situation to the point of during a bye week, there is no story. There is nothing to write. Not about players coming back healthy, not about what type of offense we should run, offensive coordinators, the Peters over Mailata debate, which we're going to get into tonight. No conversation about anything except whether or not Carson Wentz's feelings are hurt. Right? And think about it. Breaking out today, more news because when we lose a game in Philadelphia, the blame goes around. The blame goes around. And the story that came out today was that Carson Wentz has sloppy practice habits. Carson Wentz has sloppy practice habits. Okay. You would think that a Super Bowl winning coach would be able to do something about that. To be able to wrangle everybody up and say, hey, we have to do this better. Jalen Mills today said the Eagles locker room is pissed off and that they haven't played a full game together, but we're full of great talent. Your safety realizes that this team is not playing well. Your safety, and I do the finger quotes because I don't consider Jalen Mills a safety. I just, at this point in his career, I don't. But your safety is calling out your own team. We have not played a full game together. So as the head coach, what do? I'll tell you what Howie does. Edward said it right here. They draft Jalen Hurts. Something came up today on my feed. Ready? I want to share this with the people here. It says the corners right now on the Philadelphia Eagles are ranked as follows. And I'm excluding Slay because he is the only corner worth a damn on this team. But ranked out of 120 cornerbacks in the NFL, Slay is ranked 39th. Okay. He's not playing the way he should. He's playing better than any corner we have. He's not in the great system because Schwartz's system is a joke. But okay. Nickel Roby Coleman is ranked 94th out of 120. Cravon LeBlanc, 107th out of 120. Avonte Maddox, 112th out of 120. So you're telling me we have three guys almost at the worst corners in the NFL. And our defense is supposed to stop Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones didn't have to pass to beat us. We made him look like Peyton Manning yesterday. A much faster Peyton Manning. So why draft Jalen Hurts? You know where a really good place to get cornerback help is? Second round of the NFL draft. You know where a good place to get a great receiver is? Second round of the NFL draft. Not J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. No, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was a healthy scratch yesterday. Our second round draft pick from a year ago. Jalen Hurts was on the field 2-3 plays yesterday. Last 2 years. Second round draft picks. Barely on the field. Right? We should have kept Fold, if anything, just in case. It's tough to do that because after winning the Super Bowl, the market for you goes up. Right? The market for you goes up in that situation. And Jacksonville was willing to pay him a lot of money. Now, unfortunately for Foles, he broke a collarbone. They ship him over to Chicago. He wins the job from Trubisky, but that team's struggling again. Nick Foles, in my opinion, will go down as the greatest relief pitcher in NFL history. Nick Foles is a guy who, when you put in the middle of a game, he puts you in a position to succeed. When you give him time to plan, it's not great. Now, he had the one great season under Chip Kelly. Oof. There's a name that, unfortunately, I'm very closely linked to, being that I'm Chip Keggy. Oof. But we'll forgive him. I never wanted Chip Kelly. I thought he was a gimmick coach, and I was one of the only people in Philadelphia to say what a joke that guy was going to be. Right? The issue is that Foles, you had a choice there. It was either go all in on Carson Wentz, who you drafted very high and was playing at the time at an MVP caliber. Now, something has switched off, and what it turns out you need is coaching. You got to coach these players up. Putting in Jalen Hurts at random times, and my mom and family is checking in a quarterback at random times, just when Carson Wentz is starting to get a feel for the game. He's starting to make plays. That's enough. Let's put Jalen Hurts in 2-run quarterback option. Everybody in the NFL knows that when Jalen Hurts gets on the field, he is going to hold the ball, maybe give it to the running back, maybe keep it himself. Doug's response, oh, well, it was successful the first couple weeks, and now they're playing us differently. That's called adapting. That's called getting used to an offense. That's why Chip Kelly failed. Chip Kelly, way back in the day, he was like, this is the play I'm going to run, and that's that. Take it or leave it. You had Jason Peters, 30 years old, 32 years old at the time, sprinting down the field, trying to get in another play every 2 seconds. Jason Peters almost had a heart attack. But the NFL has gotten used to Jalen Hurts now, so stop putting him in the game. If, and I don't want it to happen, Carson Wentz were to go down, Jalen Hurts does not lead this team. You know, look at the Saints. Look at the Saints. It's a perfect example. Drew Brees last night goes down with an injury. Broke about every rib in his body. Taysom Hill wasn't the quarterback that they put in. Jameis Winston was. So to say that Jalen Hurts is a Taysom Hill type player, Taysom Hill was the third string quarterback of the Saints. Jameis Winston is your backup. Yet every single Sunday, Nate Sudfeld, who is a healthy scratch, who is a player that they were high up on, sits on the sideline. I don't get it. And that's, I think, the biggest thing, right? Take a look at some of the plays that did work yesterday. The bubble screen on 4th down, where they send Jalen Reagor in motion. They snap the ball. They throw the quick bubble screen. He gets the first down. It was a great play. You got Jalen Reagor moving before the snap. Never went back to it. Never went back to it. Sunday's game against Green Bay. So backing it up a second, we're talking about Sidney Jones. We're talking about Sidney Jones, 2nd round pick, who was let go. Now, I agree with letting Sidney Jones go at the time because he was struggling. He was struggling with the health. But against Green Bay, game high 9 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble, 2 passes defended. Now, he had to change his scenery. Maybe it did him good. You look at some of the players that we've let go, and we always say this in Philadelphia. They don't succeed until we let them go. Right? Change of scenery is doing them good. That's what we just said. Sorry, but Wentz is not a starter. In my opinion, is scared to play in fear of the fans. Well, luckily, and Ken, you might absolutely be right, but Philadelphia just shut down. There are no more fans at all, probably for the rest of the season. So does that benefit Wentz? Does that benefit the Eagles to not be held accountable by the fans? That's a big word that as a teacher, as an umpire, as a parent, as a coach, I have to utilize a lot. Accountability. In this organization right now, there is no accountability. Jim Schwartz gave up 27 points to a terrible Giants team and hasn't stopped a running quarterback all season. No accountability. Doug Peterson is wasting Carson Wentz's prime by turning him into a pocket quarterback, even though Carson Wentz is not a pocket quarterback. He is an athletic quarterback who needs to be allowed to roll out, which is when he's had success, break out a run, roll out, find the guy in motion. You know, be that Brett Favre cowboy type player. I'm not saying cowboy like the Dallas Cowboys because this is still a Philadelphia podcast. No, I'm saying a cowboy, the yeehaw kind. But no, 7 yards, read the field. That's not Carson Wentz's game. So the question is it Carson Wentz that's failing? Or is it Doug that's failing Carson? It's a big conversation. My buddy Christian, let Carson feel the game by running more to start. It may be a passing league, but we're not a good passing team right now. And I think of one of the teams that we got coming up next weekend, Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield he's a quarterback in the NFL. And they run the ball. They run the ball a lot. A lot. And they've got great running backs. They've got Kareem Hunt. They've got Nick Chubb. They've got guys that we're going to struggle to stop next weekend. And then they pass the ball. They let Baker Mayfield get settled in before they move ahead. Carson doesn't have that luxury. We all know that Doug, being an Andy Reid disciple, we have this conversation in Philadelphia for 20 years now, isn't going to be a running team. This, I think, is a big point. Baker right now is better than Daniel Jones, so we're going to struggle. We knew that Daniel Jones was going to run because he broke out an 80-some yard run, and we were lucky that he tripped on that one blade of grass that they didn't cut. So how did they game plan? How did they adjust? How did they get ready to face the same opponent? He ran for a 34-yard touchdown, rushed for 60-some yards. I don't understand it. Doug has lost his feel. I would argue that Doug necessarily never had feel. Doug had great pieces around him that made it seem like he knew what he was doing. He comes in, he starts to bring the team back. We're talking 5 years ago here. He starts to bring the team back a little bit, gets it a little better. Then a mediocre Eagles team, and this is big, and I know that I'm speaking things that Philadelphia doesn't necessarily want to hear, but a mediocre football team wins the Super Bowl in 2017. A mediocre Eagles football team wins the Super Bowl with Nick Foles at the helm after Carson Wentz has led us there most of the season. Relief pitcher. Going on straight adrenaline. Nick Foles leads us to the Super Bowl, where he plays the game of his life. Absolutely plays the game of his life. If I was Tom Brady, I would never shake his hand either because he embarrassed me. But, you know, Tom Brady's a big old crybaby. We can talk about that on another thing. But after the Super Bowl, it has been a steady downhill decline. That the team, which caught lightning in a bottle in 2017, a very injured team, somehow gelled together to make it work and win a Super Bowl. We've always said that, and I know Phil's a big proponent of this on the post-game shows and the halftime shows and the pregame shows. All you got to do is get in, because then it's a fair playing field. Except this year. If this Eagles team makes the playoffs, they're a one-and-done team, which leads to the conversation of, should we want them in? Because if they get in, we're not talking any changes. Jim Schwartz still gets to play whatever kind of defense he does with his 47 yards off the ball on 4th and 1. His sticks defense, I know that's a big issue here in Philadelphia. Doug doesn't have to answer to anybody. Jim Schwartz doesn't have to answer to anybody. Howie doesn't have to answer to anybody. And Eagles fans are happy because, well, we had a chance. We made the playoffs. Think about it. Except for a double doink. What success has this team had in the last 2 years? You know, the 2017 Eagles, which made the Super Bowl with an injured team, that wasn't a blueprint. That wasn't a blueprint on how to be successful. Injure all of your players. And then whatever's on the practice squad, whatever bag boy you just found at your local grocery store, which I used to work at, so I know those bag boys have great hands. Those are your starting wide receivers. Again, lucky that Travis Fulgham is turning into a player. Lucky that Richard Rodgers, a third-string tight end that we got from the Packers scrap heap, is turning out to be our third leading receiver this year. But now Zach Ertz is on the way back. They just released that today. See, they didn't think we were watching. He's on the 21-day return right now. Do we want him back, or do we want to say, hey, you know what? This season, it's a lost cause. Because who do you pull off the field? Since Goddard's been back, he hasn't done much. Richard Rodgers is our best tight end right now. Who gets put on the bench so that Zach Ertz comes back? Christian, I'm going to get back to your point in a second, but I want to talk about Hightower here for a second. Yesterday, Hightower was on the field, and they didn't throw him the deep bombs that they have been throwing him all season. Hightower was never supposed to be a contributing member of this team. You go back and you look at our wide receivers that we had on roster before game one. We had some stacked talent. We were setting up a track team, and Hightower while very fast, and Quez Watkins, very fast, weren't supposed to be contributing members this year. But then Deshaun Jackson goes out with an injury. Alshon never comes back until yesterday, and they target him exactly once. He's on the field, 18 plays, 1 target. First drive of the game, because we have to get Alshon the ball. They never look his way again. 18 snaps. Hightower, I think if I remember correctly from looking at it, was on the field for 4 or 5 snaps. Doesn't get a single target. He can't track a deep ball. And it seems to be that the only play that Carson likes to call, or that Doug likes to call for Carson to Hightower, is just throw it as far as you can. And if he catches it, cool. Problem is, Hightower's not aggressive with the ball. Hightower doesn't get that ball, and it is a punt for a good safety. It's an easy pick for a good corner. So Doug adjusts, right? Doug starts throwing these quick 5-yard slants to get Fulgham the ball in the center of the field. For Rager to play in the slot and him to run those deep passes, right? Doug adjusts. No. Because again, according to Doug, and this is a direct quote from his press conference today, I feel good about the plays that have been called. I look at the game yesterday, 17 points, and felt I was in a rhythm. And this is what it ties into. Christian said it perfectly. The offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach leave. And that really hurt Doug. It hurt him, but even more, it exposed him. It exposed him for being just an average football coach who can't make adjustments. And I know, I understand that we expect all these great things because he's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's the only Super Bowl winning coach that Philadelphia has ever had. But was it really him that won that Super Bowl? That's the conversation that needs to be had. I'm going to play something from, like I said Dan Orlovsky I'm a big fan of him. And he was on today on ESPN. I'm going to play something for you guys. And he says a lot of the things that we're all feeling. All right, so give me a second here. Let's see if I can get this to work.
I'm busy Monday through Saturday. So Sundays is my time at home to be with a little bit with my family, watch the games. My wife's from Philadelphia. Sundays stink right now at my house because my wife is miserable, Philadelphia. I've got a list of the things that I've got gripes with Philly right now. You come off your bye week and this is the best plan? Like, this is the best plan off of your bye week? First of all, stop with the 2-point conversions. You don't get more points the more 2-point conversions you get every game. Like, they're still only worth 2 points. You can kick extra points in the second or third quarters. It is totally legal to do. Third of all, the quarterback, Carson Wentz, he didn't make one play. You get paid way too much money, and usually you have one play a game where I go, wow, that was a sick play. You didn't have one. That's unacceptable. Fourth, defense. Do you have any idea how to stop quarterback run? No. Have you guys seen zone read in the past, 20 years in football? You saw it 3 weeks ago. Was there any plan to how to stop quarterback run? Can we stop using Jalen Hurts? It's not working, guys. It's 10 weeks in. It's not benefiting your football team. And this is my biggest complaint. It took till third quarter, 7 minutes and 16 seconds left on the clock to get Carson Wentz out of the pocket against the defense for the Giants that is ranked 26th in the NFL of defending quarterbacks outside the pocket. This is unacceptable game planning. It's unacceptable performance by the players. And the reality is this. The difference makers for this football team coming out of the bye. I'm not throwing at Bradbury on 4th and 10. He's the one guy on the defense that's balling. Coming out of the bye, I needed my quarterback to be a difference maker, and I needed my coach to be a difference maker, and neither were. That's why Philly lost.
Yeah, so today in Philly is Festivus, and Dan is airing his grievance.
So the question comes in. Who's with me to get Dan Orlovsky as the next offensive coordinator, nay, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles? Guy knows football. If you listen to him for 5 seconds, you understand that he knows the game. He may have been a mediocre NFL quarterback. But as a mind, as a thinker, I totally agree. Mom weighing in here. Yes, on the 2-point conversions, I was screaming at my computer screen. I have to think here that there is zero, absolutely zero trust in Jake Elliott anymore. Because you know what? How can there not be? How can there be any trust in Jake Elliott when every single time we score a touchdown, well, if we go for 2 here, then it's a 5-point game instead of a 6-point game, and then a touchdown wins it. Yeah, but you got to get the touchdown. You got to get the touchdown. Yesterday, they tried to make it a 7-point game, and go for kick the point. Kick the point. Kick the point. You pay a punter to hold the ball. You pay a long snapper. You pay a kicker. If you don't trust him, get rid of him. Yes, he's been inconsistent this year. If you don't trust him, get rid of him. You know, we know that he's not going to be David Akers. We get it. We know that it's not going to be David Akers. We get it. You know, it took so long to get Carson Wentz out of the pocket, and he got crushed. But remember, according to Doug, we were playing our 5 best linemen. No, we weren't. At this point, Jack Driscoll, a rookie lineman out of Auburn, is better. Here we go. Coach Peterson's message. This just popped up literally while I'm live with you. I do want the guys to feel that emotion they felt after the game and feel that sort of anger. So do something. You know, oh, you got to come on Wednesday with your helmet strapped up. Did you not do that before? Did you take the whole bye week off? You know, I get it. Doug, you want everyone to have ice cream, but just because your favorite flavor is vanilla doesn't mean that should be your offense. It's frustrating. You know, we're sitting here in Philadelphia frustrated, which led me to think, and I know I got some people watching right now that are, I'm going to bring up names from the past here. So we're really going to go all about the birds here. Carson Wentz, when he was drafted, was considered to be the second coming, right? This elite quarterback. This is the same town, by the way, that wanted to give up everything for Marcus Mariota. Very glad we didn't do that because Mariota's riding the bench. As the Eagles organization, when was the last time that we had a truly NFL elite quarterback? Ian, I thought you'd appreciate that. When was the last time we had a truly elite NFL quarterback? I'm going to throw some names at you right now. Right? The 1960s. I'm not even, again, 33 years old, so I've never seen this man play. If he was walking up next to me on the street, I wouldn't recognize him. I'd think he looked like Uncle Phil. Sonny Jurgensen. Okay. Great quarterback. Norm Snead, 1960s. All right. Norm Van Brocklin in the 1950s. Okay. So we know that early on, the Eagles had great quarterbacks. From 1975 to 1986, Ron Jaworski was our quarterback. Ron Jaworski was a game manager. Game manager. He wasn't great. He got them to the Super Bowl, but he was a game manager. He handed the ball off. He made the throws when he had to. He managed the game. 87 to 1995, Randall Cunningham. 87 to 1995, Randall Cunningham. Randall, awful injury. Awful injury that ended his Philadelphia career. Had a small resurgence with the Vikings. But Randall was a difference maker. Then listen to this smorgasbord of quarterbacks that we had. Jim McMahon, Bubby Brister, Rodney Peete, Ty, and Coy Detmer. Got some good feels there. You know, gotta love Coy in the shattered arm game. Bobby Hoying. Dougie Fresh. Doug Peterson played quarterback for this team at one point. Then, like Adam called out, McNabb. From 1999 to 2009, we had Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb belongs in the Hall of Fame for his body of work those 10 years. Not the football team years. Sorry, because I almost said the other one. They're the football team now. Football team. But as a member of the Eagles, he led this team to places that this organization has never gone. Like all good things, it comes to an end. Then comes in A.J. Feely, Mike McMahon, Jeff Garcia, Kevin Cobb. Remember that name, friends. Kevin Cobb, who was supposed to replace Donovan McNabb. Kevin Cobb, he lasted all of what? One concussion and was gone. He forgot where the field was. Luckily, team brought in Michael Vick, who everybody hated. Don't bring in Michael Vick. Don't bring in Michael Vick. Don't bring in Michael Vick. Until he started winning football games. Then bring in Michael Vick. Bring in Michael Vick. Bring in Michael Vick. Then, the list continues, friends. Vince Young was a member of this team. Remember the Dream Team? Dream Team. Oh, the Dream Team. Right? Bobby Hoying jerseys. Oh, and then we get into it. Mark Sanchez. Sammy Sleeves. Right? Sam Bradford. Don't be hating on Rodney. Here we go. Still be wearing that Jaworski jersey. Nick Foles. None of these names that we've mentioned outside of McNabb, remember the original point of what I was saying, are elite quarterbacks. Not one of these is in the competition. The Bradys, the Breezes, the Montanas, the Mannings, either one. They were game managers. They managed the game. They had the pieces around them and they managed the game. So how can we sit here and expect Carson Wentz to be elite when this city doesn't know what an elite quarterback is? Because we've had one, right? They paid 11 and they surround him with garbage. Imagine Wentz with the talent that's in Dallas. Think about it. Dak Prescott was throwing for 500 yards a game before that gruesome injury. You know, the list of receivers that we've had since we drafted Wentz, that'll be next week's conversation. McNabb, for all his, Ian says a really good thing here. McNabb, for all of his shortcomings, was one of the best of the early 2000s eras. If Wentz has it, he needs a coach that will challenge him. He hasn't had that kind of coaching, and he did in 2017. Not Doug. Doug wasn't the coach that made it. Frank Reich was the guy that did it. Frank Reich was the guy that challenged him. And because they challenged him, this is the thing that needs to talk about. Because Frank Reich challenged him, he's gone. Because he challenged Carson Wentz, Frank Reich is gone. Foles is not an elite quarterback. You have seen it when he played for every other team. You saw it when he was a backup for the Chiefs. You saw it when he was in St. Louis. You saw it when he was in Jacksonville, when he lost the job to Gardner Minshew, even when he came back healthy. He is not elite in Chicago. We will always have Philly. We will always have Philly, but people have got to get off the Foles train. Foles is not better quarterback than Carson Wentz. We don't know the ceiling on Carson Wentz yet. We don't know if Carson Wentz is the guy yet because he hasn't been provided with the opportunity to be the guy. So again, in Philadelphia, we expect elite quarterback play, but we haven't had one since McNabb. And we hated on McNabb and the throws into the dirt, right? We hated on McNabb and the puking on the field in the Super Bowl. We hated on McNabb. He was elite. To even be in the consideration for Hall of Fame. There's no Foles for the Hall of Fame conversation. Any of those other quarterbacks I mentioned, those Sanchez's, the Bradfords, the Vince Youngs, the Garcias, the Cobbs, the Vicks, the McMahons, the Phillies, the Peterson, the Hoyings, there's no conversation about whether or not they belong in the Hall of Fame. But Carson Wentz is just supposed to be that guy. If he stops getting hurt, he's been healthy. He's been healthy this year. We might learn more about Carson Wentz's capabilities if you put him behind a line that can actually block for him and you roll him out and let him play to his capabilities. His capabilities are he is a mobile quarterback. Wade says, we'll be more of a star on the outdoor channel, canceling flights and dropping bucks. Yeah, my man likes to hunt. My man likes to hunt and show off his truck. Mark Sanchez is known for a butt fumble, but he proudly wore that Eagles. He proudly wore that Eagles. And so my points are this. We're frustrated here as Eagles fans. We have 5 games coming up against a team with 32-13 combined record. I don't know if we win one of those games. I'm hopeful. I'm a fan first, and then I'm a realist. There's that word, realism. But without changing what we're doing, this team goes nowhere. And speaking of changing, I promise that this was an all-sports show. So we're going to change. We're going to have a little conversation. Yes, and I know I put this up a second ago. I had to rock my soldiers because, like I said, this is not an Eagles show only. It's a strength of mine. It's a passion. I just talked for 46 minutes about it. But we're moving on to the Sixers. We're moving on to the 76ers because you're talking about another team with a change in coaching. Right, we got Doc Rivers now, Mr. Raspy Voice himself, as the new head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. And what do they give him? Some of the ugliest uniforms I have ever seen. Oh my gosh, those are bad. They are reminiscent of the 1980s Denver Nuggets jerseys. They're awful. They're awful. And people have been finding the little hidden Easter eggs. Oh, look at the TTP underneath here at Boathouse Row, right? Trust the process. It's even in the jerseys. Cool. The court looks fantastic. The jerseys look like garbage. And I saw somebody do a piece, and I thought this was really interesting. The people who are running the Sixers are so out of touch with the people that support the Sixers that instead of using the Philadelphia skyline, they use Boathouse Row. Boathouse Row, which I've lived in Philadelphia area 33 years of my life. I've never set foot in one of the boathouses. Never set foot in one of the boathouses. Yet, I recognize it. I drive by it. I go, oh, those are pretty boathouses. But I've gone into Philadelphia so many more times. The jerseys are terrible. So then let's talk about the product. All right, we got a draft coming up. We have the 21, the 34, the 49, and the 58 this year. And all we're doing is talking about who we can get. I would like to list, and I've been scouring the Twitter for this. I would like to share the list of players that have been tied to potentially being on the Sixers this season. Chris Paul was tied. Now we obviously know he was just traded to Phoenix, so he's off the list. But here's the rest. James Harden, Al Horford. Al Horford is whether or not he's going to be on the team and if we can dump him off somewhere. James Harden, Buddy Hield, Russell Westbrook, Derek White, Wesley Matthews, DeMar DeRozan, Patty Mills, Nerlens Noel, Lou Williams, and Landry Shamet have all been tied to this Sixers team. That's a whole team. That's a whole team. So then the question comes in, do you think the Sixers are going to get James Harden? We got Daryl Morey, old GM of the Houston Rockets. Is he trying to recreate the Rockets in Philadelphia? Somebody, one of your big names is going to have to go. So then, as Ian says here, if you had to trade for Harden, who goes? Because you have to get rid of a big name talent. Is it Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid? Can you get him without trading one of them? No. You don't want to get rid of Joel Embiid because when he is on the court, you want to talk about injuries, but when he's on the court and when he's focused and he's got a coach pushing him, he's a great big man. Ben Simmons has such a high ceiling. If he can learn to shoot a jump shot, I think playing for Doc Rivers is going to be a beneficial thing for him because Doc Rivers is going to make him shoot the ball. Doc Rivers is going to make him shoot the ball. And he's shown that, just messing around in the gym, he's capable of it, but they're going to make him shoot the ball. But the big thing is we got to add shooters. So then I look at the list again. Okay, saying we have to add shooters. Buddy Hield, good shooter. Wesley Matthews, good shooter. I'm pretty sure DeRozan just re-upped with the Spurs, so he's going to have to go off the list. Patty Mills, good shooter. Lou Williams, good shooter. Landry Shamet, we don't know what he was. But how do we add these players without giving things up? I've heard Matisse Thybulle, untouchable. Why? Why is he untouchable? Why is anybody on this team untouchable? You have a team that in a pandemic-shortened season started out as a team that could go somewhere, made the playoffs because they had done enough over the course of the season, and they got petered out. You're talking about a team that didn't change all that much when they lost to the Raptors and when they lost to the Celtics. These are teams. And when you had LeBron go over to the West, you had a team, you had an entire conference that had it was open. It was open. Why are any of our mediocre players off limits? Matisse Thybulle is a good basketball player. He's a good basketball player. Right now, the way I see it, Horford's got to go. That was a bad contract. Tobias Harris, at least he's on the field or on the court and still in football. At least he's on the court. He's got to step it up. You need on that team a legitimate point guard. And that's where I like the Lou Williams pickup. Ben needs to drive and get to the line more. Absolutely. When you look at Ben Simmons over his first couple seasons, he stands out on the three-point arc, and there is nobody around him. Nobody around him. And we're not talking like, oh, there's a pandemic, keep 6 feet. We're talking that nobody guards Ben Simmons. He is not a scary three-point shooter because he won't do it. If they defended me the way they defended Ben Simmons in the NBA, I like to think that I would make 4 out of 10. I mean, I would be chucking it up and then running away because of the big guys chasing after me. But I like to think I would make 4 out of 10. He won't even take a shot. So once he starts shooting, this is the key. Once he starts shooting and becomes a credible threat out there, then the defenders play out on him. Then he uses his speed, drives right by them, gets to the line, plays that inside game he likes. I think trading Ben Simmons at this point in his career is dangerous because his ceiling is so high. And it all goes back to our whole point of tonight, accountability and coaching. We don't know the kind of coach that Doc Rivers is going to be for this Sixers team. We have hopes. We have expectations. We want good things, but without seeing it in action, without seeing how the players are going to respond. Is Joel Embiid going to rebel against a guy who actually makes him play? Brett Brown, for what he was, which was a transitional coach for as many years as they gave him, he's going to be a good coach somewhere. But they put him in the middle of a rebuild. Do we trade for Harden? Would I like to? Would that solve the problem right away? Would that solve the problem right away and all of a sudden give us shooting? Would we go from barely shooting three-pointers to shooting 300 shots a game? 300 made three-pointers a season? Absolutely. Do we lose a little bit of defense? Sure. We know that Harden's not a great defender. Do we get that legitimate superstar talent again that we had back in the Allen Iverson days? You think about it. This Sixers organization gave up on Lou Williams. Turned into a good ball player. Turned into a good role player. Gave up on Andre Iguodala. Remember that. Andre Iguodala started his career in Philadelphia. He was AI2. And look at the success he's had around the league. He has been a long-term member of this NBA. Why? Because he's a good player. Not great. Not great. His defensive skills are insane. Andre Iguodala's defensive skills. If we could figure out a way to get Andre Iguodala's defense into Ben Simmons, oh, that'd be great. Right? Don't trade either one. They need to do the same thing the Eagles need to do for Wentz. They need to build a system around them. They need to build a system around them and surround them with talent that makes them better. Absolutely. Mr. Conaway, you get me. You do. You get me. Adam gets me too. And I didn't want to say it because I've liked the guy since Duke. But J.J. Redick is one of the purest shooters this NBA has. But they let him go. Bellinelli, great shooter. Let him go. These are all players that have been a part of this team. And for some reason didn't gel with the two superstars of the team. Why? We will never know. But the fact of the matter is that Simmons and Embiid together have a chance to do something great with the Sixers organization. All they have to do is be coached up and put around with players that are role players. They know their roles, but those roles produce points. See, that was the issue this year. The bench didn't produce the points. Heck, the starters barely produced points. But you need a three-point threat. And if it's not going to be Ben Simmons, I don't know what it is. And apparently, I had to scroll back up to this for a second. My sister said this, about 10 minutes ago. She liked the new uniforms. I like the colors. I like the black uniforms. I think those are nice. Gritty was hated on it first, too. Not I. Not I. And one thing I should have said back at the beginning of this is you're talking to a guy who, for 3 years in high school, 4 years in college, was a mascot. I was the guy. I know what it takes to get inside. I want to say inside the fur, but might lead to a whole different kind of conversation here. But I know what it's like. I loved Gritty. I thought Gritty was genius. And if you haven't done it yet, you got to look up Gritney on the internet. You got to look up Gritney because apparently even orange creatures can find love too. Last thing I want to discuss tonight, because I decided when doing this show, like I said, we're going to talk about all sports. And right now, the big ones that are talking, we could talk about JT Realmuto and the Phillies and how they were dumb enough to let him go because they weren't sure if ticket prices were going to equal out to whether or not. We'll talk about that next week because we'll still be kicking ourselves when he signs with a New York team. But we're going to end every single night that I have you here with a Monday night prediction. All right. This week, we got the Vikings and the Bears. So look at that. We started off talking quarterbacks of the Philadelphia Eagles. We end talking about former quarterbacks of the Philadelphia Eagles, talking about Nick Foles. I don't see how they win this one. The Vikings right now with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is unstoppable right now. They can't stop the guy. Right? They can't stop Dalvin Cook. Just going back to Grady for a second, right? Freaked me the hell out, but I love him now. Been to a couple of games this year. Perfectly embodies Philly. I'm not sure what that says about the people of Philadelphia. Are you saying they got a bunch of googly eyes there? I don't know. You might take some heat for that one. Right? Again, I'm just messing with you. Monday Night Football, Vikings, Bears. The big change, ready for this? The big adjustment. There's that A word again, adjustment. The big adjustment that the Bears made this week is they switched play callings. They switched people who are calling the plays. Somebody who knows Nick Foles a little better, even than Matt Nagy, and is going to call plays that are going to help him out. With Mitchell Trubisky waiting on the sidelines for Nick Foles to screw up just enough. This is the big point, though. Dalvin Cook is going to go off. Even on this Bears defense, which is the strength of their team. The Bears' strength is defense. That's what's keeping them in this game. They're not outscoring teams. They're stopping them from scoring. Right? I agree here with Adam. The Vikings win this game tonight. I don't know how big they win it. In my weekly predictions that I make, I I said it'd be pretty close, right? I said it's going to be a squeaker. What it comes down to is, can the Vikings continue to have success with Dalvin Cook? Because we know their quarterback isn't that great. We know Kirk Cousins is very well overpaid. Very well overpaid. Adam says 10 points. I'm not sure what the line is. I'm not a betting guy. But I just think the Vikings win this game. A lot of home teams won, so you got to play the law of averages. In fact, this weekend, only 2 away teams won. The Colts and the Bucks. Everybody else was home team wins. And those are in empty stadiums. So you got to go law of averages here. If I'm saying it's going to be a pretty close game, I think the Vikings win simply because they're the away team. I think that Kirk Cousins, his only job is going to be give the ball to Dalvin Cook. And when they eventually slow that down, you got Jefferson over top. You got Thielen. You got guys that he can just throw to. So they're not going to make him throw it 50, 60 times like they do with Nick Foles. They're going to roll him out. They're going to give it to their running back. They're going to adapt to the quarterback they have. See, this is big. You have to call plays for the players you have, not for the players you want. I coach middle school football, guys. I turn over my roster every year. I'm like a college basketball team. We don't simply call plays because this is what worked last season. No, we call plays for the players we have. So sometimes we go shotgun. We're talking middle school football here. Sometimes we go shotgun. Sometimes we go wildcat. Sometimes we just run the ball because we got that kid who's going to be great. We coach and call plays for the players we have, not for the players we want to have. And I think that's really big. We're getting towards the end of this year. I want to first off thank everybody for tuning into my first show. Like I said, this was show number 1. It felt good. It felt good to talk about sports. And, as we get further into this, we're going to have some guests on. We're going to have live conversation. Send me your topic ideas. Send me what you want. One thing that I found super cool today is apparently, and a big shout out to the All About the Birds squad, Johnny and Jeff and Phil, everybody just letting me be a part of this. But apparently the coolest thing of my day was the Chips and Dish merchandise on the website, along with all of the other great shows that are a part of this organization. But you can get this face, this Bitmoji face on a coffee cup, on a workout shirt, on a sweatshirt. Get something for the kids. Get something for the missus. They'll love it. They'll say, hey, who's that guy you like? It's Chips. It's Chips and Dish. So that's all on there. Tell them Chip sent you. I don't know if there's a place for that, but tell them Chip sent you. Right? My wife, the queen of the mugs, she's buying one. I might get one too. There you go. Melissa, listen, I butt heads with my sister my whole life. And I've always been the sports guy. And she knows that. But I have said something that has broken through to her. Call for who you have on the field. And that and accountability and all kinds of stuff, that's what we're going to talk about here on Chips and Dish. I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Make sure you check out All About the Birds. We have lots of great writers. If you want to be a part of the writing staff, reach out to Phil, Johnny, Jeff, allaboutthebirds.com. They're on the Twitter. They're on the Facebook. They're on the Instagram. They're on the YouTube. They're everywhere. They're up and coming. And now I am proud to say I am a part of this. Every Monday night, 6:30, Chips and Dish, right back here. Drop me a line. Follow me on Twitter at Chip for the Birds. And I was playing around with some catchphrases. Thanks, Jeff, man. I really appreciate it. One more thing for you there. Cousins is 0-9 on Monday Night Football. So maybe we're wrong about that. I was playing around with some dumb catchphrases because, I like to do – I'm corny. That's how I roll. And the best one I came up with for tonight, and this is how I'm going to end it until I come up with a better one. Feel free to send me yours. But again, Chips and Dish, just keep chipping away at life. I'll see you when I see you.